Hello, it's Andrew here again, and let's talk about the perfect ad framework. Let's put it right here, perfect ad framework. Now, in the master class, I already covered the domino framework. That's responsible for probably a good, majority of the ads that I write in some form or fashion. You can pull elements from it, add other elements you want in. It's almost like a Lego building, if you will. You just kind of stack pieces on together, and those copy blocks all work really well. In this training, we can summarize the domino framework, but I want to show you how I think about writing ad copy for cold audiences who have never heard us before. So, as a refresher, I want to get people that are in a problem state, or I want to get them into a problem state. So that I can my solution. Okay, so the thing is you cannot get them to agree to your solution until you first get them into a problem state and show them why the thing they were thinking of would not work. Realistically, in terms of market dynamics, 30 to 40% plus of your marketplace is going to be in a problem state already. There's a lot more of them than solution state. And when I say problem state here, I mean that they are actively thinking about the problem. They're aware of what a problem is. We may need to reframe them, but the majority of that marketplace is going to be problem state. The others would be solution, then product, then most aware, right? So if you want to get more people, focus on the problem first, and then you can get them to agree to your solution. Does that make sense? I know a lot of people struggle with this concept. I had people reach out after the masterclass with further questions about this. But once we get them to agree to what the real problem is, we can say, now here is how we fix that, right? And by the way, just a moment ago, I said like 30 to 40% are in problem state. What I meant to say is like 30 to 40% are in solution state, and it's more like 60 to 70% are in problem state. I just got that flip there. I just want to correct myself. But in the problem state, there is magic, especially if it's a deep emotional problem. So let's put this emotional the problem, the better. For example, right now I am running a fix your marriage offer in the Christian space. I'm a Christian, my family's Christian, and we're focusing on helping men save their marriages, stop divorces, fix the relational problems so that they as a couple can thrive, right? That is a deep emotional problem. The first thing I do in an offer is I find the emotional pain. I cannot spell. That's why I've got this thing. I type fast, words come out of my mouth. You can see I'm just doing this on the fly. That's how I do a lot of my things. It comes out of my subconscious onto the page, happens very fast. So I find that deep emotional pain. Then I figure out what they believe about this pain, right? Often they believe a certain thing, a guru, a thought leader, or someone else put that thought there. Chances are chances are they learned it from another YouTube or another course or program that's out there. I want to find that information and deeply understand their current core argument, because if I understand argument, I can create a response to that argument, and that response has to be deeply rooted in truth. So that argument has to be so deeply rooted in truth, it makes so much internal sense that they cannot deny it. So with my marriage offer, for example, one of our counter arguments is that if you're going to a therapist or a marriage counselor, they want the problem to still exist. They won't tell you this, but they want your marriage to still be in shambles. And the reason we know this is many people will stay for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, and never solve the root problem in therapy. Why? Because therapy is a business. And sure, it makes the problem a little better, but it's like trimming the top of a weed instead of plucking it out from the root. And unfortunately, most counselors, especially ones inside of a church, don't even really understand what's going on with marriages in the first place. So it's not just the blind leading the blind, but those who do know likely want to keep the problem going so that they can bill you month after month and year after year, right? But we've created a brand new method that figures out what is the root cause of the troubles in your unique situation in your marriage. And as a result, you have to pluck it up from the root, let the soil heal, create a great environment for the relationship. And in doing so, your marriage will naturally heal itself. It's not that you haven't been putting in the effort in your marriage, it's that you've put it in the wrong places. And we're going to show you exactly where to plant it. How do we do that? Well, introducing, and then I'm not going to say the name of my offer here, but inside this, we use XYZ method to help get them the solution. And the solution is what allows married couples to thrive once again, even if you've been at it for years and your wife is on the verge of leaving you, or maybe she's even called the divorce lawyer, or what have you. Right? See, we have to tap into that deep emotional problem, show them what the real problem is, get them into the solution state. And then once you get them into the solution state, and specifically your solution, you've got them. Then what they'll do is they will go over to the sales letter or the VSL or whatever kind of framework you have, and they want to understand your core argument deeper and on a much more thorough level. Once this happens, they'll be interested, so they'll buy. But what we have to understand is when they buy the front end product, they are not saying yes. They're saying maybe. I'm interested. I'll check this out. I'll see if this works for me. And if it does, great. I'm going to go on to buy other things. I will be a reoccurring customer. I'm going to stick with you. They don't have the capacity to say yes because they don't fully understand the philosophy or the argument yet at a level where they can get results. And so, because of that, it's simply not possible for them to say yes. And we have to understand this when we're writing the ad, right? Now, let's talk about nuances. And the first I want to talk about is procedural audiences. Procedural audiences are ones who focus more on step by step. That's less emotion, more process. They need to understand they have to do get the outcome. People typically okay. So these people are higher emotional state. They feel good. They need answers. They need solutions, right? And the more feely you get with them, the more emotional, the more they're like, oh, I don't know. It just feels off. It feels scuzzy. The more you devalue other people or you just show off your flashy things, the less it's going to work and the more unconvinced they will actually be. So to win them over, you focus on the real problem in plain and state English / language they speak, right? Explaining the process in your ads and sales page to see and understand it. Here's how you get 100 plus the ad. Using the ad velocity method of running ads. No matter what industry you're in, secret or spill below, right? So for a procedural audience, this would likely get them. You don't want emotion, you don't want fluff, you want straight to the point. Here's how you get it without XYZ and without whatever criteria that they have. You'd match up with their criteria, remove their limitations, secrets or spill below, that kind of thing, right? And then you've got the other kind, which I don't really have a good name for, so we'll just call them non-procedural. Let's make these heading 3s. I think we have heading 2s up above. Make this a heading 2. Okay. Slightly lower. They need to understand that you get them. You can relate. So there are many markets like this. Keto, obviously the marriage space that I'm in, a lot of things that are more emotionally heavy and they're not business related or income related, or they focus on solving things that aren't as fine cut as like BizOp or business development or things like that. They tend to be non-procedural audiences. This is where you really need to focus on the opening. And specifically, the emotion conveyed in the opening, right? So if I were doing it for another marriage offer, let me think how I would do this. She didn't. How? I just couldn't see them yet. Turned into big fights. right? That's just an opening. So notice how there's a lot more emotion here while I'm helping them really understand what the problem is. She didn't want to leave you. In fact, for years, all she could think was about how much she loved you, how great things were. But by then, the cracks in the marriage are already forming. You just couldn't see them yet. But one, the small things turned into big fights, and big fights turned into not talking and giving the silent treatment, and the silent treatment turned into resentment. That's when the marriage began falling apart. In fact, that's how it happens 95% of the time. But what most men don't know is that it's still not too late and the relationship can still be saved. In fact, there's time to turn that sinking ship into the best relationship you can ever imagine. You just need to know how to do it. So notice how I didn't even begin to talk about process or method until I got them thinking about, well, what's the real problem? And the emotion behind the problem. And once you can do that, then you can start pivoting the method. And the good news is this method is what's responsible for your success. All you need to do is follow the simple steps and then watch as your marriage changes before your eyes, right? So this is for a non-procedural audience. You don't focus on the method quite as much. It's more about the emotion, and then the method is what gets you through it to the other side, right? So procedural audiences versus non-procedural audience, you need to understand which which crowd you're selling to in your marketplace, and then you need to think about what do they need to see. So in many markets, for example, showing testimonials is one of the worst things you can do because they might not believe you. As an audience is more sophisticated, as they have seen more offers, they're going to think, well, what's true and what's not. And if you have too many testimonials or there's too many claims and it's too hypey, you're going to turn them off altogether. This is more true in higher emotional states and people who have a higher self worth and think of themselves more highly, they're more likely to look at testimonials and case studies with a skeptical eye. So it's okay to have them. But one of the things I'm thinking about is how realistic is this and what other things have they seen in the marketplace. In fact, that's one of the biggest factors I look at. What have they seen before and what do they need to see in order for them to make a buying consideration and say maybe? Keep in mind, all this is for cold traffic. If you already have a warm audience, it's so much easier. But I never rely on warm audiences because I always want to be acquiring people with Facebook. So those are the things that I would keep in mind. And when you pair a lot of this with the copy frameworks that I gave you inside the Ad Velocity Masterclass, like the Domino framework or some of the others, you will see it is so easy to write high converting copy.